Hey guys, and welcome back to Lift Online. In this tutorial, we're going to be addressing core compression. Core compression is vital when it comes to developing skill elements such as the press to handstand, and will help to improve your active hamstring flexibility. To take part in this tutorial, all you're going to need is yourself and 2 yoga blocks. Get your hips thoroughly warmed up before diving right into exercise 1. For exercise 1, we're going to be looking at the pike lift. The pike lift is an excellent exercise for developing compression in the hip. The setup for this position is going to require you to be sat on the floor. Reach forward so that your hands are somewhere between the thigh and the ankle. Depending on your level of ability will dictate how far forward you reach. From here, externally rotate the elbows, ensuring that the scapula are protracted and depressed. From here, lift the legs high and hold for that important 2 seconds in the top position. Repeat this for 8 to 12 repetitions for a total of 3 rounds. Now, if you struggle to perform this exercise with both legs being lifted, simply lift one leg at a time. Once again, hold for that important 2 seconds in the top position before switching on to the other leg. Aim to achieve 8 to 12 repetitions on each leg. Now, if you still struggle with that, you need to recruit your yoga blocks. Place them on the floor in front of you and place your hands on top, driving the hands down into the blocks and externally rotating the shoulders, ensuring that the scapula are protracted and depressed. Repeat again for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side for 3 rounds before moving on to the next exercise. For exercise 2, we're going to be addressing a straddle lift. This is similar to the pike lift, but the legs are in that straddle position. Begin sat upright on the floor and take your legs out into a straddle position as far as you can. Flex the spine and place the hands on the floor in front of you, ensuring that the elbows are once again turned towards the hip and the shoulder is externally rotated. Keep the shoulders in protraction and depression at all time, keeping the legs locked as you lift them up and hold in that top position for the important 2 seconds. Repeat this for 8 to 12 repetitions. Now, if you struggle with that, we can look at unilateral straddle lifts. You can see here Mr. Pep has placed his hands either side of his left leg, ensuring that the shoulders are externally rotated, protracted, and depressed. Lift and hold at the top for a total of 8 to 12 repetitions on each side. If you still struggle to perform this exercise, then you're going to need your yoga blocks once again. Place a yoga block underneath the bum. This is going to give your hips a little more room to breathe. Start with the unilateral straddle lift, placing the hands either side of that leg, and lift for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side, holding at the top for that all-important 2 seconds. Repeat this for 3 rounds before moving on to that next exercise. Exercise 3 is another great exercise for developing compression in the straddle position. We're going to be looking at butterfly straddle lifts. The setup for this position will see you once again sat on the floor in a straddle position. Place the hands in front of you, driving the hands down into the floor, externally rotating the shoulders and ensuring that they are protracted and depressed at all time. From here, raise your feet off of the floor, bringing your toes together in front of you. Keeping a nice tension with the hands and the shoulders, you're going to extend the leg, pointing the toe and squeezing hard into this top position. Hold for that all-important 2 seconds at the top and repeat for 8 to 12 repetitions. If you struggle to get into that position, then once again recruit your yoga blocks, placing one underneath the tailbone and the other in front of you for your hands. The setup is exactly the same. Bring the legs together in front of you before extending them out into that straddle position and compressing at the hip. Repeat once again for 8 to 12 repetitions for a total of 3 rounds before moving on to that next exercise. Exercise 4 is going to see us standing upright to perform the standing leg lift. The setup for this position is going to require you to stand up in a nice posture with an extended spine. Place the hands over the belly button and draw the shoulders backwards and to make sure the shoulders are in depression and retraction. Place one foot out in front and extend it, lifting it up in front of you, holding at the top for 2 seconds. Ensure that the base leg is also locked out and keep tension in the whole system at all time. Repeat this for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side for a total of 3 rounds before moving on to the next exercise. Exercise 5 is going to see us returning to the seated leg lift. For this exercise, we're going to be looking at performing this movement with spinal extension, which is going to place greater emphasis on the hip flexors and the quadriceps. The setup for this position will see you sat upright with the legs extended and locked out in front of you and the toes pointed. Place the hands on the floor either side of your hip and externally rotate the shoulder, this time ensuring that the shoulders are in retraction and depression, pushing down into the floor. From here, maintaining that active extended spine, you're going to lift one leg up in front of you and hold in that top position for the all-important 2 seconds. Repeat for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side for 3 rounds. If you struggle to get into this position, then simply place the yoga block underneath the bum. Depending on your level of ability will dictate how many yoga blocks you need. The higher you go will give your hips more room to work. For this variation, we want to place the hands on the belly button, drawing the shoulders back, maintaining depression and retraction. Perform the exercise as before, lifting the leg up and holding for 2 seconds in that all-important top position. Repeat again for 8 to 12 repetitions for a total of 3 rounds before moving on to the next exercise. Exercise 6 is going to see us returning to straddle leg lifts, but this time we're going to be using the yoga blocks as a target to lift our legs over in front of us. The setup for this position will see you sat upright in a straddle position with the yoga blocks placed inside of each ankle. Drive the hands down into the floor and externally rotate the shoulders, driving them down into retraction and depression. From here, point the toes and lock out the legs, lifting the legs over the blocks and back to the start position. Repeat this for 8 to 12 repetitions for 3 rounds. If you struggle to lift both legs at once, then simply lift one leg at a time. Lift the leg up and over the block, placing it back in that start position for a total of 8 to 12 repetitions on each side. Repeat this for 3 rounds before moving on to the next exercise. Exercise 7 is a fantastic exercise for developing the necessary compression strength for skills such as the press or piked handstand. The setup for this position will see you folding forward, placing the hands on the floor in front of you, in a position whereby you can keep the legs locked at all times. Lean forward slightly into the hands, ensuring that the shoulders are protracted and elevated, and externally rotated at the same time. From here, you're going to flex the hip hard, locking out the quad and keeping the ankle in dorsiflexion. Imagine bringing your thigh to your chest. Hold in this position for 2 seconds and repeat for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side. If you don't have the necessary hamstring flexibility to perform this drill, then use your yoga blocks once again to place your hands on and give your hips a little more room to breathe. Repeat for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side, squeezing at the top for that 2 seconds. Repeat for 3 rounds before moving on to exercise 8. Our 8th and final exercise that we've prepared for you today is by far the most challenging. We've got 3 variations of this exercise, and all 3 will require you to have 2 yoga blocks. The first variation is going to see you placing one leg out in front of you with the yoga blocks aligned just in front of the kneeling leg. Ensure the shoulders remain protracted, externally rotated, and the arms are locked out at all time. You can place your hips slightly behind the knee. Keep the front leg locked out in front of you and point the toes. Lift this leg up, 8 to 12 repetitions, and hold at the top for 2 seconds on both sides. For the second variation, we're going to add a little more intensity. Slide the hips forward so that the hip is perpendicular to the floor above the knee. The exercise here is exactly the same. You will see the tension in Mr. Pep's shoulder girdle and arms, ensuring the elbows are pointing back towards his hip. Repeat again for 8 to 12 repetitions on each side, holding at the top for 2 seconds. The most difficult or intense variation of this drill is going to see you placing those blocks farther in front of you, almost in line with the ankle. This is going to increase the amount of compression strength required to perform the movement. Repeat once again for 8 to 12 repetitions with a 2-second pause at the top for a total of 3 rounds. And this concludes our compression tutorial. Enjoy. Well done on completing our core compression tutorial. We hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you struggled with any of the exercises or drills found in today's tutorial, then simply stick to the drills found at the beginning rather than the more advanced drills we move on to at the end. If you have any further questions on anything that you've seen today, then please drop us a line at info@liftthemovement.com and we'll be more than happy to answer any of those questions for you. As always, remember to share your progress to Instagram and we'll be sharing the best of our community on our feed. Have a great day.